Anglo-American War of 1812 to 1815. Causes, course of events, results. By 1812, relations between the USA and Great Britain had become extremely strained. Numerous mutual contradictions should sooner or later lead to an armed conflict, which became the Anglo-American War of 1812 to 1815, or the Second War of Independence. Background to the conflict and its causes. The victory of 1783 was not the end of the Anglo-American conflicts. Moreover, relations between Great Britain and its former colonies were particularly tense at the end of the 18th and beginning of the 19th centuries. The English Parliament did not want to simply give up its North American possessions and hope to return them to the United Kingdom. The immediate causes of friction between the two states were as territorial claims to the North American possessions, remaining behind England, British obstacles to American maritime trade. These restrictions most acutely affected the US economy after 1803, when England announced a blockade of French trade relations with other countries. Since France regularly purchased cotton from the United States, the blockade caused a serious crisis overseas. The fact that England never removed its fortifications in the Appalachian Mountains. There was also an English military garrison there, which did not allow American settlers to move further west. Rivalry between Great Britain and France. Despite the fact that Franco-American relations were not always smooth either, France was one of the main economic partners for the United States. England's support for the Indians in their conflicts with the Americans. In addition, small skirmishes and conflicts constantly occurred between the two powers at sea. After the start of Napoleon's wars of conquest, England became one of the forces that opposed the French emperor. One of the main advantages of Great Britain, which allowed it to withstand the crowned corporal, was its fleet. However, due to difficult service conditions, sailors often ran away from their ships. Some of them entered service in the American Navy. The British administration struggled with desertion and periodically launched raids on American ships to return fugitives. Along with English deserters, hereditary American citizens were often captured, which was a violation of any diplomatic norms. Despite the fact that relations between states were heating up every year, there were many opponents of the coming war in America. These included merchants who feared that their trade with Europe would be permanently interrupted, as well as those who doubted that America could survive a war against such a powerful power as Great Britain. But the whole party, which advocated war, turned out to be stronger and more numerous. Course of hostilities. The first stage of the war, 1812 to 1814. On June 1, 1812, as President James Madison made a speech in which he accused Great Britain of criminal acts against American citizens and announced the start of war. Despite the fact that the Americans had only a 7,000-strong army and 20 naval vessels, Madison's plans were very ambitious. With a few quick, precise strikes, the U.S. Army was supposed to capture Canada, which in those years belonged to England. In the first months of the war, the Americans were very successful. Britain was busy fighting the war with Napoleon and left its former colonies unattended for a time. The U.S. Army invaded Canada, occupied its capital York, then called Toronto, and destroyed the local parliament. However, the American offensive soon collapsed along the entire front line. By the summer of 1814, the U.S. Army had made 3 attempts to occupy Canada, but each time the British-Canadian forces pushed the Americans back to the border. The USA managed to inflict a major